Welcome everyone to the Almost Cancelled TV podcast. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Connor.
Yes, just about.
TV news podcast. We get together, we talk about the pilots, the renewals, the cancellations, maybe some trailers, premiere dates, that sort of stuff. Anything else juicy going on in the world of TV. Both things we're interested in, and stuff that's just amusing from an industry point of view.
Were there amusing things this week?
I don't know. I did this news like 10 hours ago. I don't remember.
That was so long.
This is a plethora of surprises for both of us as we go through and discover the very many things that have happened in the past week in the TV industry. So yeah, we'll get to it. The first thing, usually I start with reels and cancellations. Changing that a little bit for this episode.
How dare you?
Well, the Emmys were this week, so I thought starting with the Emmy Winners was the obvious thing to just kind of like kick off the show with. I'll try not to spend too much time on this. I'll just sort of run through the winners. So I'm just going in the order they're on Wikipedia, nice and simple. So outstanding comedy series went to Ted Lasso.
Good.
Yeah. The only other thing that I had a horse in the race there was really What We Do in the Shadows, I would say, but I can't complain too much. Outstanding drama series was Succession from HBO.
Okay, not surprising. I've not watched it yet, but obviously given the buzz.
But it did beat Better Call Saul and Squid Game, so I have some umbrage to have with that.
Sure.
Outstanding limited or anthology series was The White Lotus from HBO.
Shocking, because wasn't that nominated for like everything a million times?
I don't know. I don't remember what was nominated.
I feel like I remember that one being nominated like multiple times in the same categories.
If you go back about 2 months and find that episode where we went through all the nominations, I'm sure we commented on it immensely, but time has moved on. Outstanding competition program, Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls. No comment. Outstanding variety talk show.
I don't know what you just said. I feel like you had a stroke.
Well, see,
am I awake right now?
Well, it's Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big, and then it's maybe the word girls, but it's spelled GRRRLS.
Right, okay.
Hence the emphasis on the prolonged R.
Okay. So you didn't have a stroke?
No.
Are you sure?
No. Like, stop saying you didn't have a stroke or you had a stroke. I want to make a masturbation joke, and I really don't want to like lower the tone. So,
oh, yeah, sure, that'll lower the tone.
Outstanding variety talk series was Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, who I think won it for the 7th year in a row. So he's on a bit of a streak.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure he doesn't even notice anymore.
It's the only one of these that I ever pay attention to, so it's more relevant to a worldwide audience at least. And then outstanding sketch series is Saturday Night Live, which beat the only other nominee, which was a Black Lady sketch show.
There was only 2 nominees.
There was only 2 nominees.
What's the point in having an award then?
That's a very good question. I don't have an answer for you. I'm sorry, is your kitten?
Yeah, I'm trying to see what she's trying to eat. / destroy. It's fine. It's just like the plastic you get at the end of like a new plug.
Yes.
It's one of those. I think she'll be okay. But it was very distracting. I'm like, what is there down there?
Outstanding lead actor in a comedy series was Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso.
Shocking.
Yes, a lot of Ted Lasso in this, I suspect. Lead actress in a comedy series went to Jean Smart for Hacks. Outstanding lead actor in a drama series went to Lee Jung-jae for Squid Game, which is actually kind of an interesting surprise. No, would I have picked him over Bob Odenkirk for Better Call Saul? Probably wouldn't have went that far, but I'm actually kind of happy with this as a nice, different, unexpected choice.
Yeah.
He was very good in the show. Outstanding lead actress in a drama series went to Zendaya for Euphoria, who I believe was originally the youngest ever actress to win this award and is now the youngest actress to ever win it twice.
Sure, why not?
Which is kind of almost by default, but I suppose she had to win it the second time before that became true, so...
Yeah, there was no guarantee of
that. Yeah. Outstanding lead actor in a limited series or anthology was Michael Keaton in Dope Sick, which was a Hulu miniseries.
Ah, yes, I vaguely remember.
And then outstanding lead actress in a limited series was Amanda Seyfried for The Dropout, Also Hulu. Hulu doing well with the limited series apparently. So,
Yeah.
That was all right. I only watched the pilot, but it was all right. Supporting cast, I'll just run these out quickly. Brett Goldstein for Ted Lasso for comedy. Shirley Raff for Abbott Elementary for comedy. And then supporting actor in drama was Matthew McFadden for Succession. And then we had supporting actress in drama was Julia Garner for Ozark. So honestly, her beating Rhea Seehorn for Saul is maybe my biggest upset of the whole thing. No, I mean, not that I watched Ozark, so I can't really comment on her performance, but
nothing massively surprising in those winners, though. I don't think.
Nah. I thought Succession wasn't as loved as it was in the previous season, so I'm a little surprised that it's...
No, you're thinking of Euphoria. Succession was. It was Euphoria that people were kind of down on this year.
Oh, okay. Well, this stops Zendaya from winning.
No, obviously. But...
Oh, well, okay. Excited supporting actor in a limited or anthology series was Murray Bartlett for The White Lotus, and The White Lotus also with Jennifer Coolidge for actress in a limited series supporting. So,
yeah.
Cool. Directing for comedy went to Ted Lasso for No Weddings and a Funeral. I made it very clear I thought that was one of the weakest episodes of the season, but, that
wasn't the Beard episode, was it?
I said one of, not the worst.
Oh, okay. No, okay, because I think it was the other one that you were like, that one really shouldn't be nominated.
No, this is the one where she sings Rick Astley at the funeral, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was a bit tropey. Ted Lasso tends to be good at feeling unique, and that episode felt a bit...
Fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, directed for drama went to Squid Game for its first episode, which is actually kind of cool. That beat an episode of Severance, an episode of Yellow Jacket, an episode of Ozark, and notably 3 episodes of Succession.
It's a lot of Succession.
They really wanted Succession to get direction, but Squid Game took it, which delights me. Mega Lotus got it for a limited series. So, cool. Writing, comedy went to Abbott Elementary, drama went to Succession, limited went to White Lotus, and rating for a variety special, it was the Jared Carmichael Rothaniel.
What?
I don't know. There's a reason why we skip over those categories. And that's it. That's the gist of it. The only thing to tell you that after that is that Succession won the... Oh, man. That's the winners. Shows with multiple major wins. White Lotus got 5. Ted Lasso got 4. Succession got 3. And then Abbott Elementary and Squid Game got 2 each. Well, that's the major wins anyway. And then, yeah, shows with multiple wins. White Lotus got 10. Euphoria and Squid Game got 6 each. So
that suggests to me I wasn't wrong in imagining White Lotus got nominated in everything.
Yeah, not at all. I wonder what all these minor categories are that aren't in this list, because Stranger Things got 5 apparently, and I'm like, where was this?
I wonder if it's more like technical stuff.
Yeah, maybe. Unless shows with multiple total wins just means running totals for their entire show up until this point.
It's possible.
That may be what that means.
Yeah.
How did White Lotus was a limited series though? How's it got 2 years of Emmy wins then, seemingly?
So it can't be that. So it must be smaller technical awards.
I guess so.
It'll be like hair and makeup, stuff like that.
Aye. Best boy. Best boy. No?
No.
Oh, there you go. That's the Emmy results. I'm sure everyone's thrilled, excited,
Disappointed.
Mad that Better Call Saul got snubbed in just about every category it was in.
Again.
And technically it might not be for the last time, because that last batch of episodes might count for next year's Emmys, but
also it'll be so far away from when people are thinking about it next year. Yeah.
There's no chance it'll actually get anything. So quick couple of renewals, cancellations. Issa Rae's Rap Shit has been renewed for season 2 at HBO Max, so they're not cancelling everything.
No.
So that's a comedy. And then we have some cancellations. Paper Girls has been cancelled by Amazon after one season, which I liked the pilot well enough. It definitely felt like a cheap show, which, if anything, just makes me think, well, why did they cancel it? It seemed pretty cheap. It does mention here that the studio behind it, Legendary Television, are going to shop it around. So maybe it'll continue somewhere else, but
Maybe.
I don't know. Well, there's not that many, or that much of the comic book. I think ultimately you could probably do the whole thing in like 3 seasons if you wanted to. Then again, I don't know how far it got by the end of season 1, but I'm assuming
Not that far.
yeah. So, yeah. So it's a bit of a shame, but hey, Brian K. Vaughan adaptations on TV are a little bit cursed at this moment in time, unfortunately. Who knows who's going to try Saga, but I don't envy their challenge. Flatbush Misdemeanors has been cancelled by Showtime after 2 seasons.
Don't know what that is.
I don't think you would.
Should I?
It's a praised comedy series. Season 2 just finished, apparently.
Okay, I've literally never heard of it.
I'm not surprised.
Oh, yeah. Well, just, if it's praised, but I don't know by who. No one I know.
Maggie has been cancelled by Hulu after 1 season.
Yeah, sorry, I just got attacked. I was not prepared.
Okay, all right.
She hasn't figured out not to use a clause yet.
You say that as if you're expecting her to.
She will learn. It's getting there. It's like 20% of the time she doesn't anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see. And then we got a premiere date here for Exception, which is a Netflix space anime horror series.
I think I'm in.
That's coming out on October 13th. So the synopsis for the show, which comes from Tatsunoko Production and Studio 5, reads: in the far future, humanity has been driven from Earth and forced to move its population to another galaxy. Members of the scouting team are sent to search for a planet suitable for terraforming. The crew was created through a biological 3D printer, but a system malfunction causes one of the crew members, Lewis, to emerge in a deformed state. As Lewis turns on his fellow crew members, Nina, Mac, Patty, and Oscar, a countdown to the end of the mission begins in frightening darkness of the ship.
Not a bad premise.
That was not a bad premise, you said?
Yeah.
Oh.
I could be into it.
Biological 3D printers, definitely an interesting thing. Yeah. And then some premiere date stuff for your side of the world. Some Star Wars nonsense. The second season of Disney Plus's Star Wars: The Bad Batch is going to premiere on January 4th.
Which is disappointing because that's a pretty hefty delay because it was supposed to come out at the end of September originally.
Yep. So yeah, that's been pushed back. And then the other show here, Tales of the Jedi, has a premiere date.
Which is an animated anthology.
Oh, so you're not excited about that as much?
Well, I mean, I'll watch it, but as with most anthologies, some of them will be better than others.
Well, that's coming out October 26th, that one. So,
cool.
There's your Star Wars news. D23 was such a weird, because obviously it wasn't streamed or anything, but like the news was coming out of the conference that they were having
over like 3 days, right?
Yeah, but there was like a big like proper like Hall H style panel at the end of it, and that had a bit of Lucasfilm. Harrison Ford was there, some of the Star Wars. It was mostly movies, so we're not talking about a lot of it. But and then there was the Marvel chunk, and that's where some of the trailers we're about to bring up came from, and there was some other bits and pieces that I didn't bother putting in, some movie stuff. And then it was like, oh, now it's the 20th Century Studios thing at the end. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they've got some new things from various, 20th Century Fox owned stuff. It was just Avatar, though. There was nothing else. It was just literally one thing. It was just Avatar. Which
Still not convinced that is real, but sure, we'll see.
Well, they showed 15 minutes of footage of it, so...
Yeah, I don't believe it.
There'll be a second trailer soon. I mean, will that...
No.
Convince you?
Not until it's out in the world and real people have seen it will I believe it exists.
I mean, because they announced that they've started shooting 4.
Yeah, wildly ambitious.
Well, 3's already in the can, so you might as well start working on 4.
I mean, it depends how much money these next ones don't make.
It's all right. Warner got scared and moved Shazam 2. They'll be fine.
Oh yeah, that was such a threat.
Yeah, so yeah, there was some trailers this week. A couple of these ones came from D23 from last weekend. Not that I think we'll have a ton to say on them, but it'd be weird not to mention the Secret Invasion trailer, which is the based on the event Secret Invasion, where Skrulls are invading the Earth and impersonating various characters in the world. The trailer, to be fair to it, it plays it like a mystery thriller. Samuel L. Jackson's being all cagey, and is he trying to save Earth? Is he actually already one of the villains that's been shapeshifted? They're sort of playing with that. You see a few of the faces that you recognize from some of the movies that are going to be in there. Plus Olivia Colman, who I did not remember was cast in this, but
I didn't either. And then she just popped up, and I was like, "Huh, good for her."
Yeah, so she's getting a paycheck. Very nice. It looked. I'll be interested to see how that actually functions when it's like as episodes, because the tone of this trailer was definitely very different to a lot of the other Disney Plus shows.
I'll say, I'm sorry, you think it's going to function as episodes, or just not just? Oh, we're going to end it here.
To be fair, after the first couple of Rocky episodes, She-Hulk has settled into a 25-minute comedy format. It actually has adjusted,
which is fair enough, but also I think inherently it is leaning into that sitcom angle more, so it's probably the easiest to kind of feel like episodes, right?
Yeah. The first 2 didn't really feel like a sitcom episode, so it felt really weird for them to be so short. But the last few have all kind of felt like an episode of a sitcom to some extent. So, some dodgy CG aside, but yeah. So I don't know. Like I would hope they treat this like a sort of prestige, like hour-long episodes. If it's only 5 or 6, that's fine. But make them each feel like a proper chapter in it. And I'm not convinced they're going to, but we'll see. So, but my skepticism mostly comes just from their trends and their releases on Disney Plus itself, rather than this trailer itself. But
it's just the track record in general. Yeah.
And then they also get a trailer for a weird special they're doing called Werewolf by Night, which is going on Disney Plus. It's just a one. I have no idea if it's like a short movie, if it's like an episode TV special that's on its own.
And you didn't even Google it.
Well, no, I mean, because it's just kind of because they're just calling it a special. They're calling it Halloween special.
Yeah, but I mean, you could have Googled it.
I mean, it's a one-off thing. That's the guarantee. I just don't know like how long it's going to be.
According to Wikipedia, it's a 60-minute thing.
That sounds like a placeholder estimate someone's just put in as a guess.
It does.
This thing could be 23 minutes long for all we know.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't really know what the Marvel property is it's based on. I mean, I assume it's Werewolf by Night, but I don't know it. Like, I've never encountered it before. They're going for kind of a cheesy old black and white movie kind of vibe, with sort of intentionally cheesy acting, and there's a werewolf. That's basically all I've got to say about it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it looks different. I'll give it that.
I appreciate that it doesn't really feel like it's got anything to do with the MCU or anything. It's just, there's a fun little concept in the Marvel comics we can make a special out of.
It's a random thing, yeah.
So, I don't know if I expect it to be good necessarily, but, that's whatever.
Apparently it's directed by Giacchino, as in the composer.
Oh, I saw his name at the corner of my eye, but I just assumed it said he was composing it.
No, he directed it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, his first time directing something.
Maybe worth watching for that alone, just to see how he is as a director.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
That said, because it's such an intentionally cheesy, like pulpy piece, maybe it's hard to judge like how he would handle like serious drama versus.
There is, but there's still a talent in pulling off what you're aiming for.
Oh, for sure. There was also a short trailer, a teaser trailer for Percy Jackson and the Olympians. which I would have happily skipped over, but Connor actually cares about this property and watched the trailer on his own.
This is the only trailer in a while I've actively gone out of my way to watch, and there's not that much in it. It's a little bit of narration, which is lifted pretty much word for word from the opening of the first book, which is kind of, I guess the point of that was to say, hey, look, we're going to actually be more faithful this time as an adaptation, as opposed to anything it actually means, for a trailer. Just it was more just a kind of a statement.
He's just walking through the forest. There's some people with costumes on at a certain point, and then you see his face at the end, and there's a flash of lightning. Because isn't he the lightning thief or something?
That is the name of the first book. Yes. Okay.
I only remember that because the trailer for the movie played 100 times before it came out. Every time I went to the cinema,
and it was not a good movie.
I never saw it. It looked like
it was bad.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. It existed because they wanted to cash in on Harry Potter being successful. That's why the movies existed.
Pretty much. It's not better than the Harry Potter books anyway.
It's not a judgment on the books. I'm just saying the reason why those movies were funded was because, hey, this can be our next Harry Potter.
100%, and they did a bad job with it. But I know they're like halfway through production on this season now, so probably expect. I'm going to guess around summer next year.
Oh, is that why it's just a quick little teaser with not much in it because they're still shooting?
Yeah, and they talked about the rough plan is a book per season.
Okay.
There's 5 books plus some sequel series as well that if they want to, they can adapt as well.
Yeah, I guess you'd hope for just the 5 books then, at least, to tell that full story.
Yeah, that would be a pretty complete thing in its own right.
All right. More interesting trailer though was Monster, which is the Dahmer series that Ryan Murphy's doing at Netflix. Which, to be honest, Ryan Murphy's name being attached to it is the part of it that's the least appealing thing, because I'm not sure he can handle a tone like this that I think it's going for.
It's starting to feel kind of meaningless to see his name attached to something.
Yeah, that's fair.
And not necessarily in a particularly bad way against him, but just I no longer associate him with any particular style or okay, if you tell me that that there's a new show from, I don't know, pick anyone, I can go, okay, I have a vision of what to roughly expect in some vague kind of stylistic ways, whereas with Ryan Murphy I don't anymore.
I mean, I've seen a few of his pilots by now, and I would say that there is something that's shared between them all, is that they all have kind of a hollow pulp kind of feel to them in some way. Obviously that worked for Scream Queens, and I like that show a lot because it suited the comedy it was going for. But then there was other things like the Nurse Ratched, first episode, or there was another one I did from Netflix ages ago. I can't remember the name of it.
Did we do the politics one? The running for, it might have been a student president.
Yeah, he was definitely a university student or something. Yeah,
something along those lines.
Yeah, and there's similar. And I watched the first episode of American Horror Story way back, and there's definitely some, and this is why because I look at this trailer and it's not necessarily perfect, but there's definitely moments in this where okay, I can see them try to do a bit of a Mindhunter-y, kind of tension, and you've got Dahmer bringing this guy back to his place, and this sort of framing device for the trailer, which is him talking to his neighbor who's complaining about all the weird noises that comes from his house, and he's trying to insist that she eats this sandwich that he's made for her, which you would assume has got human meat in it, and he gets kind of stern, and by the end of the trailer, he's like, eat it, and it's okay. I do think the performance here from Quicksilver is, I'm not sure. Again, it's one of those things where when I see all the scenes in the context, perhaps, of the episode, they might play better. It feels a little bit hammy at a certain point here, but I don't know if that's just because this is a Ryan Murphy show and everything he's made to me is a little bit hammy at the very least.
Yeah, or is it just the way this trailer's cut?
It very well possibly could be, because I do think, a a serious like thriller version of this story probably could be interesting, but I'm not so sure that Ryan Murphy's the guy who's going to bring that to you.
No, like you mentioned Mindhunter there, because obviously it's the closest comparison.
Mm-hmm.
This does feel like Netflix wanted more Mindhunter, but from someone who would just deliver it on time, under budget, you know. Because I think that's why Ryan Murphy gets a lot of work. I think he's is a workhorse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think he does deliver on what is promised. Unlike, well, you know, Fincher is a lot of work, right? I think by the sounds of it,
a lot of work delivers a better product in the end, but yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I can see like from like Netflix's side of things why they're like, we kind of just want something that we can put on, you know, on the screens that people will watch, because that's kind of how we work as a business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit sad to me that, because like typically the workhorses aren't necessarily the ones that I'm ever going to be excited or want to watch. You know, like that's the churned entertainment that's just kind of exists for to be more content, and that's not to necessarily shit on this or shit on any of Ryan Murphy's particular work. I mean, I'm not necessarily in love with most of the stuff. I like Scream Queens a lot, but everything else I've tried from him I've not liked. But
that's just because you never tried Glee.
I actually didn't realize he did Glee.
I'm pretty sure he was Glee.
Was that his first big hit?
I'm like 90% sure that he was Glee.
That show's got a lot of dark corners now, because a lot of the cast turned out to be dodgy.
Yeah. Glee was his.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that was before American Horror Story. It feels like it was earlier.
It was. Glee started 2009. American Horror Story was 2011.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting. But yeah. But I mean, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story looks like it could be alright, this limited series. I just don't think that I expect it from Ryan Murphy. And there's little moments of the overacting towards the end of the trailer that kind of like justified those fears.
There is, but it's the sort of thing where, like, if it is like a really subdued performance most of the time, and then this is the intense weirdo kind of scene, like that could be okay. But in context of this trailer, where all you've got is the intense weirdo, like it does feel hammy. But it might not in context with the rest of the performance. But I am inclined to assume it kind of just is a bit over the top.
Yeah, there you go. That's the Jeffrey Dahmer story. So cool. All right, let us move on to some other tidbits and various things. Fun little thing that came out of D23 this week is that Ke-Huy Quan has joined the cast of Loki season 2. Not that I really care about Loki season 2, but he was great in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and it's kind of nice to see him getting a bit of a resurgence.
I'm really glad you told me what was wrong, because I'm like, I don't recognize the name of this one.
Well, I mean, what he's known for originally is Short Round and Indiana Jones and Data and the Goonies, but you know, then he kind of,
oh sure, yeah,
you know, he kind of went away from acting, and it's wild watching him in Everything Everywhere, because you know it's like 30 years since he was like in a proper role, and so obviously he looks vastly different because he was a child and the other things I've seen him in, and yet as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, it's him. Like,
oh really?
I could hear it in his voice. It's him.
That's weird.
But he's very good at it, so I'm glad he's getting some more work and doing some interesting stuff. So that is that over at Loki. And then we have, did we have another bit of Disney? No, we had another bit of Disney news from D23. Christian Slater's been revealed as part of the cast of the Willow revival show.
Yeah, cool. I like Christian Slater.
Yeah. I'll be honest, see, when I saw everyone talking about it on Twitter, right, but until I got the news story today, I assumed he was in the movie Willow, and this was him returning, and that's why it was a big deal. And then when I saw the story today, I was like, oh no, this is just like a new thing. No one knows who he's playing yet.
But people are just excited because they like Christian Slater, I assume.
Well, he's Mr. Robot, so, you know.
He is many things.
It's fine for me.
He is Slater and Archer.
Very good. Then
he's a CIA agent. He's great.
Yeah. So we have more casting for. So there was a couple of these this week, a couple last week. I've sort of got them all bundled here together just to sort of give you this, because it's a fairly notable cast. So there's a limited series from Steven Soderbergh called Full Circle in the works of HBO Max. And so far they've cast Dennis Quaid, Zazie Beetz, Claire Danes, and Timothy Olyphant. None of whom are like A-list names, but they're all names you know.
Collectively, it's like a solid cast.
Yeah. So I felt it was worth mentioning once they'd all kind of like, okay, this is the... So it's a 6-episode show. Soderbergh's directing. In Full Circle, an investigation into a botched kidnapping uncovers long-held secrets connecting multiple characters and cultures in present-day New York City. I vaguely remember this coming up when it was first sort of in development, but...
Correct me if I'm wrong, you're not a big Soderbergh fan.
Not typically. I kind of liked Unsane. I thought was an interesting experimental movie. Most of his other stuff, though, at least the ones I've seen, have not been too hot on.
Yeah, I mean, I like most of the stuff more than you do, but I don't love it.
So, there you go. But maybe TV's a good place for his work. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. So that is cool. And then we have this was an interesting article that came out from Collider last Friday. So we recorded the news last week on Thursday. So this was after we'd done the show.
Yeah, I think the first batch of all this D23 stuff was on the Friday as well.
Yeah, probably was. So this is interesting because it's something that is a direct sort of response. Not that they're making it to us, but it's a direct response to something that we have been talking about and asking for quite some time. And it is, according to Collider, Netflix are considering doing weekly releases for their TV shows. They're finally maybe willing to give up this fight.
Yeah, they're doing it for the cynical reasons, which is the same reason Amazon started doing it. Disney Plus, maybe. I think that was more about zeitgeist controlling the conversation.
Well, here's the beautiful thing about it. It's okay if the reason's the cynical if the reason is they want people to stay subbed. Like, honestly, simple logic says that that's the smart thing to do. Have people sub for 3 months to watch all the season, like, as it's coming out.
Yeah, there's always going to be people who will just like, I'll just wait till it's all out and then binge watch it. That's always going to be a thing.
But if a third of your audience pay for those extra 2 months because they want to have it as soon as it has, because they like being in the conversation, because they want to talk about it, then that's a net positive.
Yeah.
You know? If you have a few shows running at the same time, it might be more convincing to someone to sign up and just have it because, there's 3 shows on a weekly basis right now that I like, so I might as well just keep... So, all these reasons that come... Honestly, I think there's been a few little experimental things here or there. Honestly, part of this... Obviously, we're talking about the staying subscribed for the whole season coming out. But I do honestly wonder if the way that Stranger Things Season 4 stayed in the zeitgeist for those last 2 episodes, because everyone was excited about them. Everyone who watched the show was talking about it, excited about, okay, how's it going to end? Ending this big cliffhanger. There's these 2 episodes left. Even just having that one little pair of episodes split off from the rest of the season created this sense of community amongst the people watching the show for that month or so between them. You can have that every week, you idiots.
I know, and like I said, they've been dabbling, and I think they're starting to understand. Like they did, the Arcane, the League of Legends show. They kind of split that over 3 weeks. The Fear Street movies.
Yeah.
Like they kind of made this a little show out of it.
Which is what's funny is that they did that before they'd really done it with TV shows, I think, and that trilogy of movies had more of a TV show conversation continuously about it because it was spread over 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's crazy that they've taken this long. I stand by. It goes back to like in the recent conversation. I think it goes back to when Disney Plus launched, and you had The Mandalorian, and all anyone talked about for months was Baby Yoda, right?
Yeah.
I think that's when like other services started looking at that and going, shit, that's easy, like, because beyond just having the extra month's revenue, which obviously they all want, but that's short term. Long term, that becomes a cultural phenomenon. And you don't get that otherwise. Yeah.
One of the things suggested in this article that it's becoming more of a problem for them is that their binge format worked when there was no competition. Now that there's several streaming services and they're all doing weekly, all of a sudden everyone has reasons to stay on the other services continuously, but not Netflix. So it's the one that gets cut by and large. It's an interesting point I hadn't thought of. Honestly, I said this on Twitter when I saw this article pop up, that the binge experiment for me is a failure, and that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I know some people were upset when they saw this article. They were complaining. I saw some people say, "Oh, you're taking away our choice." You could still choose to wait to the end and watch it all. It's actually tougher the other way around. It's much harder for someone who wants to watch it spread out. And when you say this to someone who prefers it being delivered in a binge format, they say, well, why don't you just spread them out yourself? So, well, yeah, that's all fine and well, but no one else is doing that, so I don't get the conversation. No one's like on the same part as I am.
You can flip it around. Like, why don't you just binge it yourself?
Yeah, because that's the thing. I've done this in the past. People have been doing this with TV shows long before Netflix existed. You bought the DVD box set or whatever, and you binged the goddamn thing because
pretty much since like the early to mid 2000s, when like the DVD box sets kind of became a thing.
It's just nuts to me. And then even when you say that argument, I saw someone argue, well, why don't you just arrange with some friends to all watch it at the same? Like, look, it shouldn't be 4D chess to create an experience that happens by default if it's just released in the format that TV was always designed to be released in.
Yeah. Also, pretty sure that's only teenagers using that argument, because any adult who has tried to arrange something with friends on a consistent basis, yeah, good luck.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. And that's even before we get to the whole thing where people know spoilers for the ending the day it comes out, so you have to avoid that as well if you care about spreading it out. There's all these other little things, but this is nothing but a win-win for everyone. If you like binging things, you can still wait to the end and binge it to your heart's content. And if you need to stay up to date because you're worried about like being out of the conversation, then you're kind of admitting why it works better in the first place.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty flawed argument.
Yeah. So, if you want to binge it, wait to the end. But weekly, I don't think this is like you called it cynical, and we're calling it cynical because it's the more businessy reason to do it. I'll actually stick up for us and say it's not cynical. It's just the thing that it's the fair business decision that makes sense. Is a show takes place over 8 to 12 weeks, whatever it may be, and you're subscribed for that time period, or you can just jump in at the end and watch it all when it's there. Whatever. Yeah,
if people choose that second option, they're not losing out on anything because it's the same as what they've got already.
Yeah. And that's a fair part of the business, but it's kind of like buying singles issues of a comic versus buying the trade after it's all collected. You're getting it cheaper if you wait for the trade, but you're not there for the conversation as the singles are coming out. It's a similar idea. You're paying for those extra months for the premium of being there at the launch of every single episode. That's the idea of it. But honestly, like the experience, like I remember episodes better when they're not binge watched. When I binge watch something, like I forget so much more of it because it just I went through it so quick.
Together.
Yeah. So the anticipation for the episodes, the excitement and the zeitgeist, all these things are all reasons why.
Yeah, I very, very rarely binge watch anything anymore.
And when because even stuff that I would say I binge watched For All Mankind season 1, but when I say I binge watched that, what I really mean is I watched like 3 episodes a week. It was still spread out.
Yeah, I get it. It's so like Netflix launched the new Cyberpunk anime this week. I think it was on Wednesday they launched it. Thursday I went to work and I was like, "Oh, you watched it?" Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, I watched the first episode last night. Yeah, pretty good." He goes, "Oh yeah, I watched 9." It's like it came out yesterday. It's like, "Yeah, I've only got 1 left." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'll talk to you about it in about a month."
And of course, by that point,
finally get through it.
By that point, he'll have forgotten half of it.
Yeah,
the conversation won't be as good. Yeah, it's the thing. Well, this is funny because when you look at our own history on the channel, part of like what we tried to do for a long time was review Netflix shows episode to episode to try and recreate the feeling of going episode to episode and having conversations about each one. And it worked for a little bit. It got harder as more streaming services started to release more shows. So maybe I should have seen that argument coming. But it got really tough to actually keep up with it because you kind of lose the steam after a little bit. Because particularly if releasing content on YouTube, I've not even brought the content creators and the reviewers argument into it, but that is a consideration where covering a whole season of a show that launches on one day is an absolute nightmare. And inherently, unless it's something that feels really important to cover, more and more we made the choice not to do it because, quite frankly, the things we were covering on a weekly basis were just more important. And by the time you get to the last few episodes of the season, with very few exceptions, no one cares. The view counts like dwindle and go down. But I think the reason why I'm saying this is I think that kind of represents kind of just the zeitgeist in general of those binge shows.
Whereas alternatively, like shows on right now, House of the Dragon, the Lord of the Rings show, every week, they're like 4 or 5 episodes in respectively. People are talking about them consistently every week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, obviously, we're not covering those shows, but if we were, we wouldn't be having the same problem as we did. Like 5 episodes into a Netflix show, 10 days after it launched. For
sure. I think not a lot of Netflix shows have really penetrated pop culture when you actually look at the amount of them. Obviously, Stranger Things did. That kind of broke through from its first season. And a few other things have. I mean, House of Cards was big. It's kind of a bit more muted now because of Kevin Spacey's antics.
But again, that was partially because it was
the first.
Yeah, it was like their first big thing. They didn't have any real competition at the time.
But when I think of like part of the reason why I went back and watched Yellow Jackets is because when that was airing, there was this conversation about it that was happening as it was going on. Yeah,
even if you're sometimes out of the loop, you just see the consistent buzz, and you're like something that's on my radar just because of that is Succession. Like especially during that last season, every week people are like, oh my god, the new episode, and I've probably seen spoilers for it, but without any context, so it kind of was meaningless.
Yeah,
but just seeing everyone getting really excited and talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I should probably check this out at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was actually spoilers for The Sopranos in a She-Hulk episode. Luckily, though, fairly out of context, and I'll happily forget them. Right, as long as I don't watch the episode again and start remembering the names that are being said.
Yeah.
But it's yeah. So
I mean, it's been long enough that it's probably fair game to make references in other media.
Yeah, but this was a plot about someone spoiling it, so they specifically mentioned an episode where someone does something.
Okay.
It's ultra specific. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's funny because Wong gets really pissed off and he's like, I'm going to make him pay. So it is like a plot point, but it.
Yeah.
I haven't watched that yet, so I wish they'd picked the short scene, is all I'm saying.
Kind of on you, really, isn't it?
So yes, I welcome the weekly releases. I think, and also actually another part of this that is very worth mentioning. I don't know if we talked about this on the show. I saw this maybe earlier in the week before this came out last week, or maybe the week before that. Netflix, when they're deciding whether or not they're going to renew something, they make that decision based on how many people have finished the entire season. And something silly like the first 72 hours. It's something stupid like that.
Yeah, I think it kind of came up again recently with The Sandman.
Yeah, because Neil Gaiman was basically saying, finish it by Friday to have a chance. That was basically what it was implying. And a few other sources kind of confirmed that this is kind of how they look at metrics. And I'm like, that is insane. It means they're actually punishing shows if they're not binge-watched because people want to spread them out.
Yeah, we have never contributed in a long time. I've never contributed towards a Netflix show being renewed.
No, not at all. Which is ridiculous. So maybe the shows themselves will actually get a chance to survive if they get the chance to, I don't know, build an audience over a season because TV can do that.
I mean, look at something like Breaking Bad. One of the biggest, most popular shows of all time. Barely had an audience, relatively speaking, compared to its popularity until probably season 4.
Yeah, season 5 is the most watched season because it and here's the beautiful thing: is part of the reason why that show was able to catch up in success like that was because the older seasons were on Netflix. The beauty of your Netflix show being on Netflix is that if someone does decide to jump in halfway through the season, those first 5 episodes or whatever it is are already there.
And again, this is something very specific. We have had data on since the early 2000s with DVD box sets contributing to exactly this. That's why Netflix was able to get started as a model, because they'd seen the data of this is works. That's why they started as a DVD rental service.
And then the even just not looking at the catching up aspect of this, do you know how many TV shows that are some of the biggest shows of all time started off as failures and built an audience? Seinfeld had shit ratings in its first couple seasons. Cheers had shit ratings in its first season.
Mm-hmm.
And then they became some of the most watched shows on the planet because they built an audience over time. And Netflix is basically like, if you don't get your audience in the first like 3 days to 5 days, that's it, you're dead. You're not good enough for us.
Yeah, it's such a weird business.
So that yeah, it just feels they're sending their own content out to die because nothing can capture people like that. They had a couple of lucky things, you know. And I think it is a miracle in some ways that they didn't have competition, and I think that's why something like Stranger Things in the first place was able to capture an audience like it did in 2016.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what their most recent
or 2015, whatever year it was.
I think their most recent like bigger hit, and you might not feel it as much because it's not something we watch. It's not something that appeals to us. But Bridgerton, I think, is probably the next biggest thing they've had recently. But I'm not wrong.
No, yeah, you're probably right. That probably is, and it's captured a specific audience. It's not our audience, but you know, that's fine.
It's a big, pretty popular audience.
You know, I found out Cindy, our loyal viewer, patron, and supporter, who made me watch Bridgerton and review it. You can go check out my 20-minute tirade or 15-minute tirade, however long that was. She never even watched the first episode. She revealed this like past week or two that she didn't even watch it.
Just wanted to punish you because she knew you'd hate it.
I assumed that when she asked me to do it, she'd watched it and she thought it would be funny to see my opinion on it. She didn't even watch it.
Did the first episode have the Taylor Swift song in it? I know they use it at some point in that first season.
I wouldn't have recognized it. Sorry.
Well, someone in the comments can tell me. I'm sure. They'll probably know better than you.
There was some source music in it, but I couldn't tell you who any of them were.
It's very helpful. Much appreciated.
Look, modern popular music is not my my forte. Okay, not my forte.
Yeah. Neither is Bridgerton, but you still watch that.
I was paid to watch that. Okay. So yeah, Netflix, just throw the towel in and do it properly. It'll actually benefit your shows. It'll benefit your business model. There's like no downside to this other than a portion of the audience who don't like the idea of not getting their binge shows. But you know what?
There will be a vocal backlash like we saw with Amazon when the boys shifted to being weekly and it got review bombed.
They'll get used to it though, very quickly.
Yeah.
You know? Honestly, one of my favorite, I talked about it in the news when it happened, but when Eric Kripke gave that interview talking about how he makes an actual TV show and not just some crappy streamed show that's like hang around for 8 episodes until something happens, I was like, you're speaking to my soul, because so many Netflix shows feel like that.
And John, it's honestly, it's a trend in modern kind of prestige TV, I would say. Going back a few years now, because I remember Game of Thrones, I gave up on it at one point, probably I think it was season 4 I gave up because I was bored of it, because I just thought it was losing steam. It wasn't so hot. And everyone, it was like after season 5, everyone was like, you got to catch up. I'm like, maybe they're like everyone would tell me, Hard Home, it's the best episode of the show. You've got to catch up so you can talk about it. And eventually I kind of went back, and I think I went back after they announced they were going to go past the books, and the book was nowhere near in sight. Just like now. So I thought, all right, fine, I guess I'll go catch up. And Hard Home, I think, was episode 8 or 9 of the season. And I got to it, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that was a pretty good episode. 7, 8 episodes of mediocrity before it, though. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't like I needed to catch up to get to that episode to sit through the 7 hours of, you know, mostly boredom before it.
There's also like I started to call it the Netflix pacing, where just a lot of the shows had this same kind of like, you can kind of tell they're holding back and just like not enough is really progressing in the episodes.
They tend to have like a really like busy first episode or two. and then it slows right down until like right near the end.
Yeah. So it became such a common thing I was noticing in the shows when I was reviewing a lot of the pilots and like, or not the pilots, but when I was trying to like say, oh, maybe I'll continue this show. And there were so many shows that I gave up in episode 2 or 3 because it was like, oh no, this is just slow and dull, and like so many of these shows are, they lack any kind of spark or bite. And it's a shame. It's a shame to feel that way. So yes, and you know what? No one should feel pressured to binge watch something the weekend it comes out because they want to not have spoilers. So the death of that is something I will gladly accept.
And following on from Crypt Keep, maybe it'll force them to actually write shows that you want to come back the following week for, as opposed to, well, I guess it's there, I'll leave it to auto.
Oh yeah, I'll say this right now. If your TV show can't function weekly, then that's on you for not making a good show, where each episode is a satisfying chapter that has a hook that makes you want to come back. And I don't necessarily mean a cliffhanger. A hook doesn't necessarily mean a cliffhanger. It just means a hook in that you care about what's going on and you want to see the next chapter. So, there's this sort of expectation that it'll autoplay the next episode, so we don't have to even bother trying. Well, no, like I'm at a point now where I will stop. Like I will not waste my time.
I mean, I turned autoplay off on Netflix years ago.
Yeah. So there you go. I was looking forward to talking about that because Vindication.
Because we have strong opinions on this.
Cue the whole gif of Vindication. You know that moment.
Yep.
So yeah, all right, the dramas then. All right, the dramas. This is where we probably need to have like the Star Wars style text scrolls explaining the drinking rules for the descriptions.
Oh yeah, that's a graphic.
Somewhere in the 21st century, there was a challenge laid out.
Yeah.
One ginger was.
That's a t-shirt waiting.
All right, first up, obviously that is the biggest news show confirmation of the week. Blade Runner 2099.
How did I not see this?
Yeah, no, I didn't see this until I saw this today either. This is Amazon. They're doing a live-action show set in the Blade Runner universe. The title obviously makes it obvious, but just the only thing it really says about the premise is that it's set 50 years after 49, obviously. So
that would make sense. But yeah, cool.
Ridley Scott is producing, just like he did with 2049. You know, he produced that as well, but didn't direct it. So yeah, it's a follow-up, and it's being greenlit. So, you know, it's been picked up to series. Not a lot of other information on it, but I mean, you can kind of wonder and theorize, and I do appreciate, even though I'm not the biggest Blade Runner fan, nor are you, for that matter. No. I appreciate that they're just going 50 years in the future, so that any connections to the past movies will be, you know, small at best. You know, it'll be someone's grandfather was in it or something, you know.
Yeah, it shouldn't be inherently too specifically tied to either movie. But I have problems with Blade Runner as a movie. The setting of the world is not one of them. Oh no, of course, no. That's the best thing about it. Yeah, absolutely take that set in that world and tell some new stories in it. Like I enjoyed 49 significantly more than the original. Not to say it's a perfect movie by any means, but I definitely felt like it did more with the world that appealed to me than the original. Maybe this TV show can top that still. Yeah. Be like Altered Carbon, but good.
That's the hope. To be honest, like, Amazon makes some mediocre stuff too, but I feel like Amazon's track record with me has been a little better in recent years. So,
and I will say, the Rings of Power has probably been classified as a success, which means I'm not going to say this is going to be as expensive as that show, because I don't think Amazon will ever throw that much money at something again. But they'll probably still give it a reasonable budget. Yeah, I mean, inflation means they will throw that much money again. Just take a bit of time. I mean, on an objective sense, yes, sure, but relatively speaking, yeah. So Salka Louisa, who worked on Shining Girls, has written the script for this series and will be executive producing along with Mr. Scott. So honestly, like, Blade Runner is this weird thing where, like, I want to love that movie, and there's so many like technical things, the visuals and the audio that I love, but the story is just so goddamn dull. It's a crying shame, and like that speech at the end from Rutger Hauer is fantastic. I want the movie that goes with that speech.
I want the movie that fits with that speech, and I don't think that movie does. And I think 49 was better. I still had some problems with it though, even though I do think overall it was a better constructed movie. So I'm hoping this is another step in the right direction for me. Obviously, not everyone agrees with my take. Some people love the original Blade Runner. I know several people who didn't like the first Blade Runner who loved 2049. So, we'll see. But I'm not against trying another Blade Runner thing. I think there's a lot.
If anything, it's just surprising it's taken this long.
Yeah, I think we're at a point now where this, like, we can make TV shows that look as good as the movies, if not better in some cases.
Yeah, good luck making it look as good as 49, though.
I mean,
say what you want about that movie,
yeah.
but it looked phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what they do with it, but they possibly can. I thought that first Lord of the Rings episode that I did read the pilot for, it was a little dull and tropey, and just kind of the characters weren't that exciting, but it did look expensive. It looked like a movie.
Yeah. It's probably because it was.
So, fair enough in that sense, I guess. So yeah, that's coming. Next up, what do we have here? This is Christina Okoa from Animal Kingdom and Promised Land is developing a sci-fi series called Empty Earth, based on the Rick Moranis book Rick Moranis book series of the same name, with Freedom Studios. So no network or anything like that yet. This is just at the studio
Early
level.
days,
yeah. In Empty Earth, climate change has forced humanity to a dystopian bargain. Seek safety or risk everything to find the answers. The book trilogy is a post-apocalyptic adventure series with an empowered female protagonist, wrapped in an epic of love, family, and survival, with science at the forefront.
I don't know if that hit the rules or not. I was kind of verging on it.
Well, the only problem is that technically in a post-apocalypse, there's no professional side of things. You could argue the actual science and the trying to solve the problem is the professional side, but it's a bit of a stretch.
It was a stretch. I think they were close, but I don't think it quite hits it.
It was close. If she said returning to her hometown after the apocalypse,
that one would have been instant drink. I mean, it sounds okay.
Yeah, it's hard to know what the tone of this is. It sounds like it could be more young adult skewing, possibly, or I
could see that.
There's a few possibilities. I don't know if it's because Freedom Studios I first read as Freeform Studios, and maybe I've just instantly in my head labeled it as a Freeform show.
That's very unfair to it if that is the case.
Yeah. Which it isn't. It's not a Freeform. Maybe it'll become one,
yes.
but it isn't right now. So that is Empty Earth. That's the title of that one. So there you go. So Reg Jean Page and Glenn Powell are going to be in some. Do you know who Glenn Powell is before I tell you who it is?
I do, yes. The name is very familiar. I'm just trying to put
We referenced something he was in earlier.
Go on. I'm very tired right now.
Chad Radwell.
That's where I know the name from.
Scream Queens, for anyone who doesn't know who that is. But and then the other dude's actually the main guy in Bridgerton, of all things. So all these things coming back up. So they have been cast in a new version or a new take on Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This is for Amazon, actually, again. So it's not titled right now, so they don't know what they're calling it. But it's a straight-to-series order. It comes from Joe and Anthony Russo's AGBO company. So I don't know if they're actually involved in the they're just executive producing, I think. Bridgerton will star Paige, who starred in The Grey Man with Russo's, which I've heard is a really dull movie from people.
Huh. That's disappointing.
Yeah. So I've not been on my way to watch it, but so he's going to be playing Butch Cassidy, and then the Top Gun Maverick star, Glenn Powell, is going to play Sundance Kid. So
well, I've got even more motivation to watch Top Gun Maverick.
Chad Radwell, screw Tom Cruise. Chad Radwell's in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently it's set in an alternate America. That's the one little tidbit here.
It's alternate, is it? Okay. Is that all we get?
Yeah.
Yeah. Didn't say how. Like alternate history and diverse at some point? Nothing.
Well, I mean, I don't think Butch Cassidy's typically black, so maybe that's part of what they're getting at.
I mean, it could be, but I mean, like with Bridgerton, it was just they just didn't acknowledge it, right?
Yeah,
With the
yeah.
little, like, casting, so who knows?
Maybe that's what they mean. Maybe that's just what the alternate Earth's going to be. It's just we're just not going to explain.
It could well be. Yeah.
I mean, that's assuming it's set in the past. I mean, for all we know, this is like a contemporary, version of it. But
Retelling. It could be.
So it's the only thing I can think of, because all I have is Two Faces and an alternate Earth. That's all I have to go on. So, but there you go. That's a new version of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid coming to Amazon. Next up, we have a show in the works at Paramount Plus that's going to star John Bradley, who most people will know from Game of Thrones. I know him, unfortunately, as the annoying guy from Moonfall. If you saw Moonfall earlier this year, I know you didn't.
I did not. No, that didn't help.
Yes, but he's going to be in a show called North Shore, a Paramount Plus crime thriller series from Cold Feet creator Mike Bullen. Joanne Froggatt is going to be the other main star of the show. It's a 6-episode season, and it is an Australian original for Paramount Plus. So Paramount Plus have been ramping up their local originals in all the places it's launched. There's going to be some UK ones. This is an Australian one. It's set around the Sydney Harbour. It follows Max Whaley, played by Bradley, a British detective who, offside with his colleagues, is seconded to Australia to observe the investigation into the suspicious death of a young woman, the daughter of a British cabinet minister. When Max travels to Australia, his life is at a crossroads. His boss doubts Max, his boss doubts if Max is a team player and questions whether he has a future with the police. And his wife is contemplating calling time on their marriage. That definitely sounded like personal to me.
I think it did.
There might be like a third one, but the two key things we're looking here for new people to the show is some variation of professional and personal in there. It can be a derivative of such, or someone returns to their hometown in some form for the premise of the show. I guess the other one's also there's a sort of secret, like a deep dark family secret about themselves or something.
Yes, the deep dark secrets.
Yes. So that's the 3 drinking rules for Connor. Just
it is
for those who need them explained. So there you go. I don't know what to make of this, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds like it might be kind of cheap. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect from a Paramount Plus originally. I mean, obviously I've watched the Star Trek shows, but in terms of this, which
Did you try Halo?
I did watch the first Halo. Yeah,
Kind of weird that you've watched more Halo than me.
It wasn't good.
That's disappointing. Actually, I mean, I kind of knew that anyway, but
yeah, well, it wasn't good.
Not that I expected you to think it would be good.
It kind of felt like a really big budget fan movie. You know, it kind of felt like someone got a budget to do all this, but there's still just kind of this weird slightly cheap feel to it, despite the fact that there's obviously millions of dollars being spent on all these effects and stuff. Like, there's something about Master Chief's helmet that just looks a little bit cheap and flimsy in live action, you know?
Do you know what it is? I think it's a mistake a lot of things adaptations make is things don't translate to the screen one-to-one. Like, you can go, look, it's perfectly accurate. That doesn't necessarily mean that.
Honestly, I think the design of it is fine, and that could work in live action. I think it's just a material thing. I think the material just looks too plasticky. I think what you have to do is make it more look like, I don't know, like grimy metal. You know, give it a sort of weighty look to it, and it would probably look better. But as it is, it just looks like kind of cheap plastic to me. And you know,
it probably was kind of cheap plastic.
It probably was. Yeah, a lot of really obvious green screen stuff. Yeah, it wasn't. Anyway,
that's disappointing.
And that wasn't the main problem. I mean, the writing and the characters were a bigger concern, but
yeah.
But worth mentioning those things. So anyway, that's North Shore of Australia specifically, by the sounds of it. Yeah,
led by an Englishman.
That's gotta suck. If you're getting your first Australian original on Paramount Plus, and it's like lead character's an English guy.
Yeah. Colonialism.
Next up, what do we have here? So Ji-woon Kim, one of South Korea's directors, who's made a bunch of notable films, like he did Good, Bad, the Weird. He did Tale of Two Sisters. Why I'm saying the ones I don't like as much first, I don't know, but he did.
I own both those. I've not seen either of them yet, but
yeah. No, Bittersweet Life and I Saw the Devil are the ones that I actually really like. So
I've seen I Saw the Devil. I did like that.
It's a good movie. So he's teaming with some writers to work on Star Trek Discovery, Bo Yeon Kim and Erica Lippold, to develop a new series about a Korean family immigrating to the US. This comes from E1, so there's not much more of a premise than that. That's kind of it. But
it wasn't really a premise.
It's slightly a premise. I mean, obviously he's got name value being attached to it. I won't judge the two writers for having worked on Star Trek Discovery because they're just in a writer's room.
Yeah, unless it turns out they were responsible for the worst episodes, in which case you should judge them.
Yes, and going by at least one of their names, I imagine this is a more personal story. Talking about a Korean family moving to the US is probably something that is going to be a bit more, I don't know, intimate perhaps, and therefore
there was maybe something they can contribute to a bit more personally.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reasons why this. What I'm saying is I don't expect this to feel like Star Trek Discovery. This is what I'm trying to say. I
really hope not. That would be a bit weird.
It'd be a very strange take. So yeah, it's interesting. So that's cool. But yeah, so he's going to direct it though. That's the thing. So that's the key thing here, is that he's going to be the one directing it. And what's interesting is that just immigrating to the US doesn't sound as fantastical as like his stuff does. Either he has like a really serious thing with like a villain who's like really nefarious, like I Saw the Devil, or it's a revenge story, or he has like a weird western, or he has a horror movie with supernatural bollocks. Like, I don't know if I've seen him. I guess Bittersweet Life is the closest thing to a straight drama, but even that's like a crime thriller, with like a badass.
Maybe there'll be a twist to it that they're not telling us yet.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Maybe. I don't have anything.
Sure, they won't say anything, and you'll watch the trailer, and you'll be like, "This isn't what it said before."
Probably. But there you go. So no title on that one yet. So there you go.
Yeah, they don't want to give it away because I'll tell you the weird twist.
Maybe they're going to go for like a sort of like a twist on, like they're going to open like an Italian restaurant as the main characters.
Sure, why not?
I don't know. Anyway, final story of the week. We are going to a network. We got ABC coming in with a clutch.
Well then, let's see what they got for me.
So developing a procedural drama from Drew Goddard, who you may know because he worked on the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Did he really? Are you sure?
I'm positive. But more notably, directed Cabin in the Woods, and he worked on the Daredevil show. He wrote the Martian, which
had a very good script.
Yeah, not the book, obviously. He had obviously adapted it.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Just in case anyone got confused there. So, yeah, it's come from ABC Signature, and it's based on something actually. So, based on TF1's popular detective series HIP. So it's like I think it's a French. Yeah, it's a French series that this is based on. HIP stands for High Intellectual Potential.
Ah, not you then.
That was like the lamest, easiest.
It was, and I took it, and I'm not ashamed.
You should be ashamed.
I'm not.
This is in the second cycle for the round of pilot pickups. It's not out. So it's untitled right now, but the premise of the untitled drama, written by Goddard, evokes Goodwill Hunting. In it, a single mum with 3 kids and an exceptional mind helps solve an unsolvable crime when she rearranges some evidence during her shift as a cleaner for the police department. When they discover she has a knack for putting things in order because of her HIV. It sounds like a disease. It sounds like HIV.
It does. It's hard to take it seriously.
Because of her HIV.
Watch out for that HIV.
She is brought on as a consultant to work with a by-the-book seasoned detective, and together they form an unusual, unstoppable team. So this is the Fox style of, it's a buddy cop show, but one of them...
Which I believe was a drinking rule.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But one of them's not a cop. One of them's something else. In this case, she's one of the cleaners in the police station. Which is... all right. I'm glad they gave us some proper network TV bollocks at the end here to send us off on.
It's what the people are here for.
Honestly, the weirdest part about this is that Drew Goddard's like involved with it.
Yeah, means it's gonna be shit.
Because he's involved with it.
Yeah.
I think it'll probably be shit because it's just a generic network TV. I wish he was doing other things that were more interesting, but
paycheck.
He's probably getting a paycheck. Who knows? Maybe he'll give it some life. Maybe it'll be better. But yeah. So, what do you think they're going to call it?
It's got to be some sort of pun based on cleaning evidence.
You can refer
I don't know
to
what that is yet, but there's got to be one.
Something to do with forensics coming in and, like, you know, you're not supposed to touch the crime scene, so maybe there's a pun in, like, cleaning the crime scene. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know.
They got months to figure it out.
Sometimes you call a hitman a cleaner because he cleans up the messes by murdering people. I don't know if they can do something with that. She comes in and cleans up the cases. So she's the cleaner. That's becomes a double meaning.
Yeah. Oh, clever that.
Like, that's all I've got for you. But I mean, ABC aren't as bad as Fox of just going with, because if this was Fox, it would
be an acronym. Oh no, that CBS is the acronyms.
Yeah, or I don't know, because CBS also just do like SEAL Team is the name of a show.
SEAL Team is an acronym.
Well, yeah, but it's only an acronym because it's already an acronym. It's not an acronym because they made it an acronym.
That's true, but it still counts.
All right. Detergent PD.
That's the best you got. Really.
Mopping up the streets.
How are you getting worse? I didn't think it was possible.
All right, there you go. That's the news for the week. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Keep in mind, you get it a day early. Most weeks on Patreon. If you want to support us over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and keep all the content coming, you can go do that. Of course, you can hit the super thanks button on YouTube. You can support us for free by simply hitting the like button, subscribing, commenting, sharing us around. We're at mailed_fuzz on Twitter. Do any and all of those things. All of it does help. I will thank our Patreon producers for the month. Thank you to Tyler Hess, Cindy Palacios, David Short, Bornow, Christopher Moy, David Brown, Al Treisman, and Alison M. Fordyce for their support. And thank you to all of our patrons.
Yeah, sorry, she's running around in circles on my knee. Demon cat, I swear.
This is so funny that you have to put up with a kitten.
Oh, it's awful.
It's so good.
So tiring.
Yes, well, there you go. That is the show. That has been almost cancelled for the week. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?